The key wouldn't turn. I stood there in the hallway of the Seabreeze Towers, the smell of salt and disinfectant in the air, jiggling the key in the lock of apartment 12B. My apartment. The one I'd come home to after 4 months of working a restoration job up in Savannah. My hands were stained with wood finish, my back ached, and all I wanted was to drop my duffel bag and see her. I knocked. The door opened, but it wasn't Sarah who answered. It was a man, younger than me, with slick back hair and the smug look of a guy who's never had to fix a leaky faucet in his life. He was wearing one of my bathrobes. Then Sarah appeared behind him. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Leo," she said, her voice flat, devoid of the warmth I'd known for 8 years. "It's over." "Over?" I repeated, the word feeling foreign in my mouth. I just got home." "You need to leave. Dave is moving in." Dave, the personal trainer from the 3rd floor. He smirked, a cheap, triumphant little twitch of his lips. They didn't know it then, standing there in the doorway of the life I thought we were building. They saw a tired old carpenter, easily discarded. They didn't see the man who understands that every structure, whether it's a building or a relationship, depends entirely on its foundation. And I'd just discovered ours was built on a straight-up lie. They thought they were on the top floor. They were about to get a hard lesson about starting over from the ground floor. My name is Leo. For 40 years, I've worked with my hands. I'm a carpenter, specializing in historical restoration. I don't just build things, I bring them back to life. I understand the integrity of old wood, the honesty of a well-made joint. It's slow, patient work. You can't cut corners. Sarah and I had been together for 8 years. I thought we were that kind of structure, built to last. We've been trying for a kid for the last 2 years with no luck. The doctors said to keep trying, to reduce stress. When the building manager job opened up at Seabreeze Towers, she saw it as a sign. A free 2-bedroom apartment with a view of the ocean. Less financial pressure. A fresh start. To make it happen, I sold my house. It was a small place, but it was mine. I'd rebuilt the porch, laid the hardwood floors myself. Every nail was a memory, but I sold it. For us. For our future. For the family I thought we were going to be. We moved into 12B, and Sarah took to the manager job like a fish to water. A few months later, I got an offer I couldn't refuse. A 4-month contract to lead the restoration of a historic library in Savannah. The money was incredible. Enough to put a real nest egg away, to stop worrying. Sarah encouraged me to go. "It's for our future, Leo," she'd said. While I was away, it was perfect. We talked on the phone every night. She'd tell me about the building drama, the leaky pipe in 4C, the noisy neighbors in 7A. I'd tell her about the intricate crown molding I was recreating. I came home to visit twice. Everything seemed fine. Better than fine. It was all a lie. The whole damn thing was a cheap knockoff. And I was the only one who didn't know it. The 2 months that followed were a special kind of hell. Sarah, citing her manager's authority, gave me 30 days to get my things out of 12B. I had to rent a small, depressing room by the week from an old acquaintance. The building I had considered my home became a prison. Every time I had to go back to pack another box, I ran the risk of seeing them. And I did. I saw them holding hands by the pool. I saw him driving her car out of the manager's reserved spot. I saw them laughing in the elevator, their arms full of groceries for the kitchen I had planned. Sarah looked right through me like I was a ghost, a piece of old furniture that had been discarded. The humiliation was a physical thing. It sat in my gut like a lead weight. I stopped eating. I lost 20 pounds. Sleep was a stranger. The worst part
was knowing it had been going on while I was away, working my hands to the bone for them. The late-night phone calls, the visits, it was all a performance. She was just waiting for the right moment to kick me out. The final blow came about a month in. I was in the lobby waiting for the elevator when I saw them walk in. Her hand was resting on her stomach and Dave was beaming. She was pregnant. The family I had dreamed of, the one I had sold my house for, was being handed to another man. In that moment, the grief turned into something else, something cold and hard. It was the quiet, slow-burning anger of a patient man who has finally been pushed too far. I went back to my rented room and sat on the edge of the bed, surrounded by boxes of my life. I could just leave, disappear, let them have their victory. But every principle I'd ever lived by screamed against it. You don't let a rotten joist stay in the floor just because it's easier than replacing it. You fix it. You restore the integrity of the structure. I wasn't going to just walk away. I was going to get my life back on solid ground.
The decision wasn't about revenge. It was about justice. It was about balance. She hadn't just broken my heart. She had used me. She had used my money, my trust, and my labor to build a life for herself and another man. Her position as building manager was the foundation of that new life. And I knew from our late-night phone calls that she was cutting corners. As a carpenter, I see things other people miss. I notice when a repair job is shoddy. I know the difference between a licensed contractor and some guy with a pickup truck. Sarah had complained for months about the tight budget the building's corporate owners, a big real estate firm called Pinnacle Properties, gave her. And I started remembering things she'd told me. I got Dave's buddy to fix the plumbing in 4C for half the price the regular guys quoted, she'd said one night. Is he licensed and insured? I'd asked. Oh, Leo, don't be so stuffy. It's just a pipe. It saves us money. I realized my knowledge was my weapon. I still had my residence key card for another week. I started walking the building, not as a heartbroken ex, but as an inspector. I took pictures on my phone. The sloppy drywall patch in the third-floor hallway, the mismatched paint over a water stain on the 8th floor, the flickering light in the parking garage that she'd claimed was fixed 2 months ago. I talked to old Mrs. Gable in 6A, who told me she'd been complaining about mold in her bathroom for weeks, and Sarah just told her to clean it with bleach. I talked to the young couple in 9F, who said they paid Sarah a $200 cash amenity fee to use the social room for a party, a fee that wasn't listed anywhere in the building's official rules. I didn't need to bait her into texts. I had receipts. Physical, documented proof of negligence, improper use of funds, and potentially dangerous, unlicensed repairs. I spent a week putting together a quiet, professional case file, complete with dates, photos, and resident testimonials. I wasn't going to her immediate supervisor. I was going to the top. I looked up the corporate headquarters for Pinnacle Properties. I was going after the queen, not the pawn. The meeting was in a sterile, high-rise office building downtown. I sat across some mahogany desk from a man named Mr. Harrison, the vice president of operations for Pinnacle. He was in his 50s, wearing an expensive suit, and looked at me with polite skepticism. He probably thought I was just another disgruntled resident with a petty complaint. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't talk about my broken heart. I talked about liability. I spoke his language. Mr. Harrison, I began,
opening my file on his desk. I'm a resident at Seabreeze Towers. I'm also a licensed carpenter with 40 years of experience in construction and restoration. I have some concerns about the property management at that location that could represent a significant financial and legal risk to your company. His posture changed. He leaned forward. I walked him through it, page by page. The unlicensed plumbing work, the ignored mold remediation, the cash fees, the photographic evidence of shoddy cosmetic fixes over real structural problems. I was calm, factual, and professional. I wasn't an ex-boyfriend seeking revenge. I was a concerned stakeholder pointing out a risk to his investment. When I was finished, he was silent for a full minute. He looked at my file, then at me. "Mr. Harrison," he said finally, his voice cold and serious, "thank you for bringing this to my attention. We at Pinnacle have a zero-tolerance policy for this kind of mismanagement. We will handle this immediately." I nodded, closed my file, shook his hand, and left. I didn't have to wait long. The next afternoon, I was packing the last of my tools from the old apartment. I looked out the window and saw a black sedan pull up. Mr. Harrison got out, along with another man in a suit. They went inside. 20 minutes later, Sarah and Dave came storming out of the lobby. She was crying, he was yelling. Harrison and the other man followed calmly behind them. I heard Harrison's voice drift up. "The terms of your termination are clear. You have 24 hours to vacate the manager's unit. A security guard will escort you while you retrieve your personal belongings." I stood by my window and watched them. Watched as their perfect world, built on my money and her lies, crumbled in a single afternoon. There was no joy in it, only a profound, quiet sense of order being restored. The rotten wood had been torn out. They were gone by the next morning. A moving truck came and went in a few hours, loaded with the furniture I had helped pay for. A new professional management team took over the following week. The building felt different, lighter. I finished moving my things out and found a small, clean apartment a few miles down the coast. It didn't have an ocean view, but it was mine. I set up my workshop in the garage and took on a few small jobs. The quiet rhythm of sanding, measuring, and cutting was a balm for my soul. I was building again. I heard about them once, about a year later, through a supplier I knew who lived over in their new neighborhood. He said they were renting a cramped place in a rough part of town. He was working odd jobs and she was cleaning houses. The baby had been born with some health problems, which made things even harder. I felt a pang of something, not pity, not satisfaction, just a deep human sadness for the whole sorry mess. Their choices had led them there. My choices were leading me somewhere else. I had chosen to stand on solid ground.
A man who works with wood learns a lot about foundations. You learn that you can't put a beautiful finish on a rotten board. You can't build a strong house on a cracked slab. It might look good for a little while, from a distance, but eventually the truth comes out. The rot spreads, the structure fails. It's a law of nature. For a time, I thought my life had collapsed. But it was only the house that fell down, the one built on lies. My foundation, my skill, my integrity, my sense of what's right was still intact. When everything else was gone, I still had that, and I used it to rebuild. You don't get over a betrayal like that. It becomes a part of your grain, a knot in the wood. But you can sand it down. You can build around it. You can create something new and stronger and more honest than what you had before. My life isn't what I planned, but it's solid, it's real, and it's built to last.
Like and subscribe.